on day one, a few English journos were told straight away, watch Ben Stokes, this is really important. Ben Stokes is a news story. These sort of things always happen. You get a new captain, he takes over, and suddenly everyone's focused on every move. The thing is that I'm not sure he was that interesting on day one. More the story was the 17 wickets. The more really interesting thing was Ben Stokes today. When he came out to bat, he was under more pressure. This is his main skill, doing a chase. And this is also what Ben Stokes is famous for, right? Literally chasing these sorts of totals. Well, usually they're slightly harder than this, but in this particular case, I suppose it's either chasing incredible totals or it's, beating New Zealand. Those are the two things he's known for. There was a lot more pressure on him. Not to mention that he was coming out after a whole bunch of wickets. In fact, if you include New Zealand's sort of collapse at the end, we'd seen just a whole host of wickets fall in a very short period of time. And when Stokes came out, and let's be honest, he's used to coming out when there's lots of wickets, but when he came out, the pressure of the chase, there was the pressure of the collapse, there was weirdly the pressure of this wicket, which is, despite still looking really good from every vantage point and occasionally being really good, seems like it's almost haunted when it comes to batting at the moment. And then Ben Stokes had to chase what was one of the highest chases ever at Lord's. This is not a ground that people would normally chase on. Of course, they're not usually doing their chasing, early on day three either. And so a lot of players would have come out, they would have batted as normally as possible. Ben Stokes did not do that. And you can understand that in the Ben Stokes worldview of, I must attack, I must be the alpha, I must get on top. Of course, he was going to play a few more shots. He decided on a lot more shots though. He really did attack in a kind of bizarre way, and I think it really started with the way he played against Colin de Grandhomme. I'm actually was wondering if they brought de Grandhomme on just to bowl slow medium, because it would be like, putting chum in the water for a shark. And that's kind of what it seemed to do to Ben Stokes' brain a little bit. He was running down the wicket. Now, I understand the overall thinking here. He wants to get outside the line and take away the LBW, and he doesn't like the pace of the medium-pace bowler, so if he's going at them, he makes it feel like it's a little bit quicker. Of course, he could have done that by just taking guard on off stump and a metre down the crease. Why he did it with running down the wicket, it didn't make any sense. And it seemed to almost scatter his brain against de Grandhomme. And de Grandhomme was swinging the ball around, he was a little bit dangerous, but Stokes was making him look like a killer at that point. And I think most of us watching were thinking at that point, well, this could go horribly wrong. It didn't for a little while, although it almost did quite a lot. And then eventually it fell apart when he ran down the wicket. And not only run down the wicket was he bobbling his head around manically and trying to get on top of de Grandhomme, he also tried to play a flat back shot to probably wasn't that sure. And also, why would you play that shot at that time to that particular ball? It seemed like such an unnecessary move from Stokes, and when he was bowled, it felt completely normal for him to be bowled. Of course, it was just a drag on. It just felt like he was going to get himself out by running down the wicket to de Grandhomme, and he didn't need to. But it wasn't just de Grandhomme, right? He did it, and he looked absolutely furious with himself. And I remember thinking at the time, I'm not sure he'll even try this again. Hey, what are you? I expect it from him, not from you. Hey, no, I'm going to take it out just because it was you. Only I may get the laughs now. What was I talking? And when he walked off, he was so angry with himself. I remember thinking, he's probably not going to run down the wicket to medium paces anytime soon when he doesn't need to. And then it was a no ball, and then he came back out to bat. And then the next over, he ran down the wicket and got an edge over slips. In some ways that was, no, not in some ways, in every way, that was a way worse shot because he already knew that he'd made a mistake and now he was like doubling down on it. And he continued to come down the wicket until Colin de Grandhomme couldn't bowl anymore because he injured his heel. And he did it occasionally to Kyle Jamieson as well, which made even less sense. Jamieson's case, you're shortening the pitch, you're just going to dig the ball in short, now ball's at your body when you're running down. I didn't understand it. And the thing is that outside of this weird tactic that he decided on, and I've certainly seen him do it before, not always successful either, but I can understand the thinking behind it, even if I in no way agree with it. But it was weirder because he was actually batting pretty well. In fact, at one point to Jamieson, he just played a beautiful square push that had the fielder up. He seemed to be seeing the ball decently well. He was batting with Joe Root, so he had no worries from that end. There was still Ben Stokes to come, who might not be the greatest batter in the world, but certainly can play. They had 6 wickets in hand, and he seemed on top of his game, and yet he would just run down the wicket and do this weirdness. Also, with de Grandhomme off, he knew that we were going to have to bowl Ajaz Patel. And remember, of very recent times, Ben Stokes scored 34 runs in it, and he had a decent enough leg side boundary off Ajaz Patel to attack as well. Not so much a short boundary, but at least a reachable boundary, especially for him. In fact, they had fielders out, and he took them on. But again, he almost got bowled doing that, and he did clear the fielders when he took that shot. But it felt like everything had a little bit more of a risk. At the start of his innings, I kind of understood it, even if I don't back it up fully. By the end of his innings, it didn't really make any sense because him and Root were just completely in control. And I do think for all the batting talent that Ben Stokes has, there is a certain element sometimes of he gets in little modes, and it felt like he was in attack mode. Even when New Zealand were giving him lots of singles and allowing him to knock the ball around, felt like Ben Stokes thought he had to attack and he had to score more quickly and he had to get on. I'm not sure he did, especially with Root there at the other end. He could have continued to knock the balls around. New Zealand were giving him so many gaps, but he didn't feel that way. And he does get in the three modes. He either absolutely blocks the hell out of the ball, he only ever looks for singles, or he likes to attack. And he just got trapped in that other one, and in the end, that was the reason he went out, right? And the interesting thing is that, certainly from an outsider's perspective, we just got to the point where we were thinking, they're a very good chance of winning this game now, England. And honestly, even before they went out to bat, I'm not sure anyone who wasn't a fan will really think England were going to win, but then suddenly it did feel like that was a possibility. But Stokes was still batting like it was panic stations. Oddly enough, after the one time he went out charging on a wicket, he wasn't actually out charging a wicket. What happened was he got a short ball from Jameson, which he was in the middle of ducking, I can only assume, doing a limbo, and then suddenly he tried to up and over it over the slips. It seemed like a very late decision. It seemed like it was something he did not have to do from the ball from the wrong line. It was a really scattered, weird thing, and I don't think this says anything about Ben Stokes. It probably tells us a lot about Ben Stokes, the batter. He just wasn't completely in the right mindset. They might have actually put on enough runs that they could still steal this game. But it is interesting that after all these years, there's probably a reason why Ben Stokes still doesn't average over 40 consistently. And I think today was the sort of innings where he was either over-attacking or overthinking it, where realistically, he's just a really good batter and he could have just put the odd bad ball away and batted with Joe Root and England would be completely safe. They might still win, but I don't think they will feel completely safe right at the moment.